Alec Murdaugh double murder trial entering the 4-week mark.
But it has been a meticulous process, introducing dozens of pieces of evidence.
And we've only heard from a handful of witnesses today. Our live team coverage on day 16 continues with Michael Higdon, Melissa Rademacher, and Ray Urena.
Michael, one of the last people we heard from was the health professional who examined the bodies of Maggie and Paul. What did she have to say today?
Ruff, and Dr. Ellen Reimer has been considered an expert in her field for decades, doing more than 5,500 autopsies in her career. She says she's been testifying also in court for decades, every month really, over the last 20 years, and she is the expert who did the autopsies of Maggie and Paul. Now, only the jury are the ones who were able to see the photos and images that she was presenting during her testimony because of just how graphic they were. She also went into very detailed descriptions about the entry and the exit wounds of the bullets in Maggie and Paul. Melissa Rademacher joining us live now with more about what she illustrated. Melissa?
Dr. Reimer used a poster board with the shape of a body drawn on it to draw on the injuries that Paul and Maggie suffered. She was as technical as she could be using that poster board. Before showing the jury actual photos from the autopsy, she warned them how graphic those photos would be, saying, quote, "It's the nature of the beast." She says Paul suffered 2 shotgun wounds. One of those bullets entered his chest, and she found gunpowder particles on Paul's body as well, indicating the gun was fired from as close as 2 to 3 feet. She says he would have had his arms down by his sides when he was first shot. She says the second shot Paul suffered was a severe fatal injury to the head, which she described in detail.
A shotgun wound is entering the top of the left shoulder, and let's say his head is turned like that, it's going to go right through the face, right? But if his head is turned like that, it's going to spare the face and be able to go behind the face.
She said Maggie's injuries were consistent with an assault rifle. She described Maggie's five wounds, including to her abdomen, her leg, her wrist, her chest, and 1 fatal shot to the head. She detailed the trajectory and impacts.
So this was an exit, and then we have like a re-entrance, okay? So we have a series of defects. We have, this is an entrance, an exit, and then the bullet continued through the left side of the face and lower ear area.
With this level of detail, Alec was visibly upset during the testimony. Ray Urena was inside the courtroom during that time. And Ray, what did you notice?
Yeah, and Alec Murdaugh, he could be seen shaking his head several times, as well as rocking back and forth as the pathologist testified and described the bodies at the scene of the killings over at Moselle Road. Now, during the testimony of Dr. Ellen Reimer, there was a cardboard box in front of where Murdaugh was sitting. Behind it were napkins and mini bottles of water. While they explained the condition of Paul Murdaugh's injuries, he grabbed several napkins, used them before putting his head down and shaking it once again. He would also gaze up for a short time before looking down and was particularly emotional while they were talking about the entrance wounds for Paul. It wasn't just Alec who was emotional, as Buster Murdaugh also had his face turn red while the rest of the family were shedding tears. The audience was intrigued by the testimony, tilting their heads even though images were hidden away from their view, and jurors were also leaning in while Dr. Reimer spoke. Now, testimony for Dr. Reimer is expected to continue tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. They just wrapped up not too long ago, and that's where it stands right now. Live in Paulding County, Ray Urena. Michael, back to you.
Well, the state has said that at last check that they could be wrapping up their case as early as Wednesday, and then the defense would take over, and they believe they'll need about a week to present their case. Now, a close eye, though, is going to be kept on the jury. 2 jurors were dismissed this morning after testing positive for COVID. The state and the defense have brought up concerns, though, that if more jurors do test positive, that could possibly lead to a mistrial, which would mean this whole thing starts over again. The judge says that he is encouraging the jury and anyone in the audience to wear a mask. The jury will also be tested again on Wednesday for COVID. There right now are only 3 alternates remaining. Reporting live in Colleton County, I'm Michael Higdon. Back to you guys in studio.